Right, so I've got Tom with me. We met, what was it, 2 or 3 years ago, and you was the DJ on our boat party,
Times have changed.
and now you are. Well, you've been the whole time a PT, right?
Yeah, yeah. So I'm a personal trainer and online coach, and I've
Yeah.
been in Dubai. This is going into my fifth year.
Okay. And where are you working now?
So I base myself at one of the warehouse gyms, but then I also work online remotely with people all over the place.
Okay, this is the important topic I want to talk about. Obviously, we focus. My company focuses on health and wellness through health insurance and online services, where we do like talks of experts, and it might be a doctor who comes and talks about men's health, women's health, stress. There might be financial talks, but it's all around making the employees feel better about themselves and healthier. Obviously, nutrition and fitness is a big part of that. And the reason that I wanted to get Tom onto the podcast is that Tom initially had a business where he was working in person 90% of the time. And obviously, during COVID, everyone's working from home and other things have happened. And you've decided to transition to an online business model.
Yeah,
How's that working out for you?
yeah. It's good. To be honest, it was quite an easy switch for me because the personal training, the training in person was really a small part of it. It wasn't, you know, all of the service. Most of the service comes in the time outside of those sessions because if someone comes to me and they want to lose weight or they want to lose body fat, they're not going to lose weight in 3 hours of personal training a week.
Hmm.
They're going to lose weight in all the other stuff that they do outside the gym. There's another 165 odd hours outside of the gym.
Yeah.
When it comes to weight loss, that's where they're going to make their progress. So part of my job as a personal trainer, or most of my job as a personal trainer, was to basically be on people's cases outside the gym.
And keeping people accountable. And
Exactly. So I want to know, what they're doing with their nutrition. Can you send me pictures of your food?
yeah.
How have you done on your steps
I,
today?
I remember you doing this with Selene actually. She was messaging saying that I'm going out for brunch. Like, what can I eat at this menu and stuff like that, which was like amazing.
Yeah, I got called a stalker the other day by one of my clients. I'm not sure how I feel about that, but
What?
that you almost have to be kind of that
What,
way
are you on their
inclined.
Instagram? Like, where
Not
are
not
you?
necessarily. Well, sometimes, yeah. I'm
This is why
like,
you're not losing weight.
they're like, oh yeah, I had fish and greens for dinner. I'm just like, oh, I just saw a pizza on your Instagram story. But yeah, like you just have to be on clients' cases outside of the gym.
And you said something really interesting to her before. It was which you basically touched on then. I can't. There's no point someone paying you to be in person and do cardio. Like, you're not going to watch someone run on a treadmill.
Yeah,
These are the kind of things that people need to keep themselves sort of accountable for.
yeah.
So, in terms of what you're setting up for people, are you more focused now on nutrition or the actual exercises? How's that working?
So if I was training someone in person, everything that we're going to do in person is resistance training
Hmm.
because like you just said, I do
So
not need
weights.
to supervise. Exactly, yeah, weights. I do not need to supervise someone running on a treadmill for half an hour. And if I ever did that to a client in a session, they should fire me straight away because that is not, in my opinion, that's not coaching, right? You can sit on a bike yourself for 30 minutes, and that's important, but it doesn't require my attention, right? I want to
Yeah.
know that you've done it, but I don't need to sit there watching you do it.
Okay.
So most of what I focus on outside the gym is going to be the nutrition programming. How accurately are they implementing that?
Okay.
Because people think they're doing something right, but
They're sneaking a Mars bar.
yeah, exactly. And like people are really, really good at not tracking everything and being kind of really, really harsh on themselves because it's those little things that you potentially miss. You
Mm.
might say, "Oh, you know what? I had a steak for dinner," but then you missed the crisps that were on the table beforehand, or you missed the one beer that you had, and that
Yeah.
stuff adds up over a week.
I got a friend Lee. I'm going to throw him under the bus now. He would train so hard. He would go out like he was. But one month he was doing like 100 kilometers, like running the month. A few people were competing. I'm lazy, so I didn't join in. But he would do all of this like effort in the gym and running and everything, and then he'd come home and he'd be eating, watch football, would have like Snickers bar, Mars bar, bag of Haribo, like some crisps, and I just hear like ruffling next to me, thinking like, what are you doing?
Yeah,
He's training again now. He's lost loads of weight, so he's back on
yeah.
track. He's doing well. Well done, Lee.
That's a trap. Honestly, a lot of people fall into. They go to the gym and they kill themselves in the gym and they do an hour of cardio every single day, but then they eat that stuff back. And this is why I hate things like Apple Watches and Fitbits and stuff like that because it tells you exactly.
Get rid of that
Yeah, you can throw that in the bin.
now.
It tells people how many calories they burn. They go and do a resistance session or they go and do a run on a bike or something, and it's like, oh yeah, I burnt 600, 800 calories, whatever it is, and then they use that as a justification to then go and eat a
Yeah.
pizza, and it's like you've just wasted your time in the gym.
I've
You may
just
as well
earned
have
that.
not gone. So it's yeah, that's a kind of big pitfall people fall into with cardio in general and like classes.
Do you find though that now you've gone to more of an online model that the results have changed? Do you think you're are you struggling to get the same results as in person work, or what do you think?
So like for me, it was kind of an easy switch, like I said before, because the service is essentially the same. It's just not the personal training. It's
Right.
not going to the gym and training someone.
So
So
you're keeping all the results are still coming in. Like,
yeah, exactly. And there's no reason like if someone came to me and strictly wanted to lose weight, they
mhm.
weren't bothered about building muscle or whatever it is. You don't necessarily need to train. I could just handle your nutrition and you could lose 10, 20, whatever kilos. And you don't really have to do that much exercise. It would be optimal to do exercise because, you're going to build muscle and you're going to have the shape that you're looking for. Most people don't want to just drop loads of weight. They want to kind of look good and feel good.
Yep.
So, you know, you
I've
could,
lost a lot of weight just walking
well, yeah, exactly.
and traveling, and since I got back to Dubai, like the steps have gone.
Yeah, it's too
Weight's
hot.
kind of plateaued a little bit. It's not going gym as much, but
Yeah,
yeah, no, I get that. It's very much in a diet perspective.
yeah,
I have a really boring diet personally. Like I eat porridge every morning, just milk, no sugar or anything like that.
yeah,
I'm not saying I'm perfect, but it really helps me control my weight.
yeah.
Are you a boring eater? You
Um, I like my routines. You know, if I can eat the same thing every day and not get bored of it, great. Usually you will get bored of it at some point, but I do like to have set meals that are pretty consistent.
Mhm.
If you have something different all the time, it's a lot of mental effort,
Okay.
And like for a client, for example, let's say they need a lot of variety in their diet, but they're working a job, they're stressed out. A lot of the mental energy is being expended on other priorities, right? It's really hard to be creative and
Deliberate.
eat something different. Yeah, exactly. It's really hard to be creative and eat something different. And then, when you don't have that mental energy to be like, oh, what I'm going to cook, I'm going to like cook meat and vegetables. You're
Yeah,
just like, I can't be bothered.
I've had
Let's
Nando's
order
four
delivery.
times this week.
Well, the Nando's isn't inherently bad, right? There's probably some things on the menu that are going to be better than others, but
This is an important point because a lot of people, it's happened to family, friends, myself. They'll go through this period of, oh, I'm going to get really fit for holiday, right? That's my goal. I want to get a six pack in 12 weeks or whatever. They put in so much effort, and then bang, that diet stops, and it's almost like they've punished themselves for so long, and now they're like, I'm going to eat everything,
yeah.
and they rebound so fast.
It's a really dangerous game to play, and it's a really tricky situation because, like you just said, people want to do something for 6 weeks, and they get to that end result, or 12 weeks, whatever it is. They get to that end result, and what happens when you diet? First of all, your body weight comes down. So
Mm.
the amount of calories you need to keep your body weight stable reduces. So let's say someone's maintenance is 2,000, they finish their diet at 1,600. So they've got to reduce maintenance calories, which means they can't eat as much as they used to because their weight's lower.
Hmm.
They're also super, super hungry because they've been dieting for 12 weeks. And then,
And they're planning that curry
yeah,
with all the
exactly.
naan bread and
And they get to that end where they've had this voice in their head for those 12 weeks going, I can't eat that. And then all of a sudden, that cognitive restraint, that restriction, that mental block is just removed. So you're super hungry. You can't eat as many calories as you used to without gaining weight. And you just remove that little voice in your head that has been saying, no, 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 don't eat that for 12 weeks. And that's why people gain weight so quickly afterwards.
yeah.
So you have to have, and this is an expectation that I always ask of my clients. If someone says to me, I want to lose 20 kilos in 12 weeks, or I want to lose 10 kilos in 12 weeks, I'm like, that's great. We can do that in 12 weeks. But what I want from you is to keep working with me for 4 to 6 weeks after that.
Yeah.
Because without that phase of solidifying what you've done and maintaining your habits and making sure you adjust properly to that new body weight, you may as well not diet in the first place.
Yeah. So it's that stage of it's not really a diet to get to an end point. It is a lifestyle change. You need to slowly adjust back into
Yeah.
normal routine.
And we talk about something called reverse dieting, which is essentially slowly building your calories back up to
And
what your new
what would
maintenance.
slowly building calories up be? Like, 100 calories a day,
It could
every day?
be,
Like, what are you doing? Extra chocolate bar? Like, what?
yeah. Well, let's use that 2,000 calories, 1,600 calories example. So let's say your new maintenance is 1,600 calories, um, or let's say your new maintenance is 1,800 calories, but you finish your diet on 1,500 calories. I don't want to take you to 1,800 calories straight away because what a lot of people do is they take themselves to 1800 calories. They start eating that on a daily basis. But then there's, those dinners out that you've been missing out
Mhm.
on, the
Yeah.
brunches that you've been missing out on.
Yeah.
So 1800 calories becomes 2500 calories.
Yeah.
And that's when the weight goes like that. So my approach to that would be maybe you add 100 calories in a week or
A
every
week.
couple of weeks. Yeah. Because it wants to be that hunger is not going to adjust straight
So
away.
people's diet hasn't ended.
Exactly. It's the diet after
It's
the
not a
diet.
12-week diet. It's like a 16-week
Yeah.
process, right?
And you might actually get a little bit leaner in that time because technically you're still dieting, right?
Mm.
But it's about kind of resetting yourself for your new body weight and rebalancing your hunger and psychologically adjusting to not just eating everything in the fridge
Mm.
because that's quite hard when you're hungry. You haven't got that restraint anymore, and then all of a sudden all this food's available to you that you haven't eaten for 12 weeks.
Yeah, I eat a lot of cheese, so if it's in there, it gets eaten.
Yeah,
And halloumi, I looked it up. It was like I think it's like 300 calories for
yeah.
half a halloumi.
Halloumi's
It's
tricky, man. Like
horrific.
I could smash a lot of halloumi in one go.
And you mentioned something else before to me about you just said about increasing that calorie per week. Um, you mentioned something quite interesting on your Instagram that was about you don't always have to have a set calories every day. It's
Yeah.
going to be over a period of time. So if people want to cut back
Mm.
to have that brunch and then message you what they're having, that's like a possibility for them.
So there's a few ways you can approach this. The most sensible way to do it, let's say you want to bank some calories for your weekend, I would try not to do more than 10% in a couple of days before. So let's say you're dieting on 2000 calories.
Mm.
You could take away 200 in those couple of days before, so you've got a little bit of a buffer. Brunches are just the worst enemy of a transformation. So if you want to lose a lot of weight in a short amount of time, I wouldn't brunch, like if you can. But let's say you want to go out for a meal with your partner or you go into a social event, whatever it is, you could kind of bank some of those calories, but it doesn't want to be so much that you're literally starving yourself before. Because all that happens is when you starve yourself, when you over restrict, you just snap back the other way.
Mm.
And you're going to go to that meal super, super hungry. And with my clients, for example, we will agree something ahead of time. So if someone says to me, I'm going to Zoom this weekend, I'm like, right, okay, you can have the black card and we're going to have how many drinks you're going to have. You can have 2 drinks, you can have this. We agree that ahead of time. So they've got a plan and then we adjust
Oh,
the
that's
approach
good.
for the week based upon that meal. And that's how you maintain your
And it,
social life.
it almost doesn't. You don't. No one's going to notice that either. Like they're not going to look at someone and be like, "Oh, they're boring. They're not.
Yeah.
Not eating, not drinking," because you've kind of pre-planned. You know what you're doing.
And that's quite a hard thing for people because Dubai's socially
I've
it's
never pre-planned a brunch. What I'm going to eat or drink that
but you can pre-plan a brunch, but after so many drinks,
goes out the window.
it's going to go out the window. Exactly.
And you don't know what they're free pouring either. So
Yeah.
tell me about alcohol then. So obviously, we've all heard this. You have a Guinness. It's like having a roast dinner and all of that rubbish. But what are you promoting to people if they are going to have alcohol in their brunch?
So first of all, we want to agree a target because if you just go in and say, "Oh yeah, I'll be sensible,"
Not going to happen.
you're not going to be sensible. So you tell me, okay, what do you want to have at this brunch? Are you going to have 5 drinks? Are you going to have 10 drinks? If that's
10.
the case, 10, yeah, 10, 15.
And after brunch.
Yeah. But this is where it comes in. Like inherently, the 10 drinks is not necessarily the problem. It's everything you do the next day or the food that you've eaten at the brunch.
Yeah.
Because you might think, oh, I'm going to be sensible and I'm going to have the salad at the brunch, but then I'm going to have 10 drinks and then I'm going to smash whatever else, the desserts, whatever they're serving. And then the next morning, you're hungover. And
Oh,
you're like,
I'm
"I'll
the
get
worst.
Deliveroo."
I shut those curtains. Like we're in my kitchen, by the way. I shut those curtains. I'm on that sofa. The projector's on. I'm just sitting there in my pit, just like
Block out the
ordering
world.
pizzas. Yeah,
Make
I'm the
myself
worst.
feel better. But yeah, that's the thing. Like when it's not necessarily the alcohol that's the massive problem. It's everything you do in that time where the alcohol's being removed from your body,
Mm.
which is normally not sensible decisions. Like I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I get up in the morning after a brunch and have a bowl of fruit and a protein bar because I don't.
Yeah,
But you've got to accept that if that's the approach you want to take and you want to enjoy yourself, you can undo a lot of work in one day.
yeah, yeah. I've seen that quite a lot. So, in terms of group sessions, obviously you're not doing like spin classes or nothing like that with clients, but how do you find coaching people? It might be couples or a group of friends. Like, how are you finding that as a potential? Um, group weight loss program, I guess.
So with couples, it can be a good thing
Right.
because one of the best things you can do if you want to get a body transformation, you want to lose weight, whatever, is get everyone in your immediate environment on side. Because
Throw out all the chocolate and
yeah, well, not necessarily throw it out, but when you come home on a Friday evening and your partner says to you, "Oh, let's get a takeaway," you're stressed, you're tired, you're gonna say yes. Like I would say yes, right? So having that conversation with a partner and saying, "Can you just support me in this and maybe not suggest we get a takeaway and maybe just help me out a little bit." That's really really powerful. So couples training can be quite a good thing because you've got that joint accountability. What I find with clients who are in a relationship and they train with me is they just kind of grass on each other with regards to what they do with food. I'm just like, I'll ask for pictures of their food and they send me what their husband is eating. And I'm like, that's not really helping. But group training, so if you can get, and this is, I'm thinking like a work environment here. One of the easiest ways you could implement some accountability in like a working environment is start tracking stuff together. Or maybe you have a sheet where you're tracking if someone wants to lose weight, maybe track the weight. Not everyone wants to lose weight. So
Mm,
you could look at like a performance. You could do like a daily step target for the team. Or you
yeah.
could do
Which is why you need an Apple Watch.
well, exactly. Just don't use the calorie expenditure feature. Um,
I'm not sure if they're accurate anyway.
there's a big degree of variability. So it's I would only look at it from a perspective of how much activity you've done in terms of steps, and then maybe logging your cardio because you have like the little ring thing that you close. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. To be honest, I don't use the calorie count. I know
Yeah,
Selene does, but I don't really use that at all. For me, it is steps. I managed to keep like 10,000 steps for like a year,
yeah,
and then the last 2 months it's just like plummeted, and I've like dropped my average for the year to like 8,000,
yeah,
which is terrible. But well, it's still good, but to drop that much means that I've obviously barely walked anywhere in the last 2 months,
yeah.
and that's been quite hard. But I think what you just said in terms of like a corporate environment, probably the best thing they could do is that step goal.
Yeah, step goal, you could do amount of minutes exercised, but also look at other stuff that is related to body composition and weight loss. Stuff like sleep, energy, stress, because when people exercise more, generally those things improve.
Yeah,
And when you sleep better, you're more motivated to go out and do stuff. So
yeah,
yes, you can look at it from an activity perspective. You could also look at it from a lifestyle perspective. And that's stuff I track with all of my clients. I want to know how their sleep's been, what their energy's like, what their hunger's like, have they got any
yeah,
cravings? Because that all affects their ability to adhere to a program.
yeah. There's a great book, by the way, anyone listening. It's Matthew Walker, Why We Sleep. It's quite a long book, but he talks in depth about there basically isn't any bodily function that isn't impacted by sleep.
Yeah.
Absolutely everything. And you mentioned something on the Instagram the other day about, if you want to improve your sleep, probably one of the best things you can do is get sunlight.
Yeah. The best things for sleep are all free. Like you don't need to take medication. To be honest, like taking sleep tablets, you're not actually sleeping, you're just unconscious. So people like I'll have a client will come in and they're oh yeah, I had a sleep tablet last night, whatever. And I'm like, well, you've actually probably just made it worse than it was if you just gone to sleep and got a few hours. But the best things you can
Why
do
is
for
that?
sleep. So essentially, what that medication does is it helps you get to sleep. It's like drinking alcohol. You get to sleep,
Mm,
but you don't progress through the sleep stages.
right.
So
Okay.
you're not getting quality
Not going to like REM
rest.
sleep and stuff. And
So the best things you can do for your sleep, number one, if someone came to me and they're struggling with sleep, I say, how much sunlight do you get? Normally, it's not very much.
especially now, everyone
Yeah,
hides from it in summer.
it's boiling outside, right? If you can get 10 minutes of sunlight in the morning, kind of between 7 to 10 a.m., and then you get 10 minutes of sunlight in the mid to late afternoon,
What are
maybe
we
like
talking,
4,
like full on
5, 6.
sunbathing? Am I like,
Not at
is
all.
my top off like just my face or what?
You can do that if you want, because then you get a bit of vitamin D as well. But it's more about the sunlight exposure into your eyes, because
Right. Okay.
the biggest
Interesting.
determinant of your circadian rhythm or your sleep wake cycle is sunlight exposure. You've got like a nucleus in the back of your eyes, and that sunlight exposure at the two extremes of the day is what mainly regulates your sleep cycle. And then you've
Yeah.
got things like consistent meal times, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So that's a big one. That's the first thing I'd look at. The second thing I'd look at is pre-bed routine. So obviously most people they're on their phones in bed, they're watching TV,
I'm the
whatever.
worst at this.
Yeah, well, this is the thing. It's hard when you're in, you work a corporate job, for example, because sometimes you're gonna have to be doing emails. But if you can reduce that artificial light exposure, again, it's gonna help kind of regulate that rhythm.
Mine's definitely not emails at night. It's it's like puppy videos. Like,
TikTok.
I had to delete. I've told everyone this. I've had to delete Instagram and Facebook from my phone.
Mm.
Don't get me wrong. Every now and then I re-download them, and then I catch myself scrolling like mindlessly at night.
Yeah.
I'm really bad at it. Like just to be able to switch off. I find I don't know what you would suggest, but for me, probably the easiest way for me to switch off is to put on an audiobook.
Yeah. But that's perfect because there's no exposure for your eyes.
Visually, yeah.
I put on an audiobook, I fall asleep straight away. And I wake up and I'm like halfway through.
Yeah,
I'm like,
oh,
I don't
I've
remember
got to rewind
anything.
5 hours. Where am I?
So podcast is a good one. Reading is a really good one, especially if it's fiction,
Not on
because
the
it
iPad,
helps. Well, not on the iPad because you've got that
Yeah.
backlit screen. But reading, especially fiction, helps promote escapism from the day. So it helps your mind switch off.
Interesting.
So that's also a really good one. Another really good hack is, and I do this pretty much every day, if you have a hot shower 90 minutes before bed. Don't do it right before bed because that's going to increase your body temperature and actually wake you up. But when we wake up in the morning, our body temperature is the highest. And then as we go through the day, it slowly cools down. And that is kind of a signal, another signal for you to go to sleep. If you have a hot shower 90 minutes before bed and then you have that cooling effect, especially in an AC environment, you have that cooling effect right before bed, you're going to sleep a lot better.
Yeah, I remember that. That was in that guy's book. He said, I can't remember the temperature now, but it was something like you want to be less than 21 degrees in your bedroom.
Yep.
You basically want to be cold and wrap yourself in a blanket
Yep.
to get to sleep.
There's another book, I can't remember the name of the author now, but it's called 21 Strategies to Sleep Smarter or something like that. And it's got, each chapter is just a really short, practical way to help improve your sleep. And yeah, the room temperature is a big one.
There was another thing as well. So I spoke to a guy. We were just speaking about weddings before wedding season this year. Met a guy at a wedding, and he was training for a competition, and his personal trainer had got him having something like 4 liters of water a day. And this guy was like, right, I need to smash off my water. And he drank it all in like a 2 hour period at the start of the day. So the rest of the day could get drunk. How important is that? Because that seems like a lot of water to me. I don't think I could personally drink that much.
4 liters in a 2 hour window is a lot of water for anyone. But generally, I'd be looking at least 3 to 4 probably, especially here because it's warmer. You're in a warmer climate. You're more probably predisposed to dehydration, and everything's a lot easier when you're hydrated. Your performance is better in training. Your cravings will be better controlled, and it's kind of important for things like digestion and toilet frequency and stuff like that. So it is important, and a lot of people here just seem to run on coffee.
Guilty.
But if you're hydrated, you'll actually feel a better effect from that coffee. So it's kind of, there's a lot of win-wins there.
I just had a scan, CT scan the other day, and I won't go into detail on all of that, but he basically said you've got a small kidney stone. I was like, oh no! I've heard stories about people with kidney stones. My friend was literally on his office floor, curled in a ball, like crying because he was in so much pain. Like,
yeah, they're quite nasty.
So all of a sudden, I was like, oh my god, water! Like, I need to keep drinking water, and it lasted like 2 days, and then I can't keep I find it really hard to, remind myself to drink water.
Yeah,
it's not something easy to do, so it's quite a hard habit to pick up. I think
a good way to approach that is some people have those massive like 3-4 liter bottles of
like
water.
the thing that you chuck on top
Yeah,
of
exactly.
the water machine.
Just keep one of them with you all the time, and you're carrying load around all day.
And then you know that you've done that your daily amount.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. Okay. Is there anything else that you do with your clients that might be really useful for, especially in like a corporate setting? I'm thinking, obviously having healthy foods around. Offices love to put out bowls of apples and stuff like that. Like, what's your recommendations in terms of snacks?
I think have a plan and a backup plan. So if you have a plan of having something for lunch and you can't do that because you have a meeting popped up short notice, maybe have like something like a protein bar with you or a bit of fruit, just so that you're not going prolonged periods. Yeah, exactly. It's not necessarily there for you to eat that day, but it's a backup for if you plan
instead of going bad and having something you shouldn't have. Yeah.
Exactly. And that's normally where people go wrong, right? It's they might have the best intentions, but stress gets in the way, like life gets in the way. And if you don't have a backup plan for the original plan, you're going to go to that delivery option. So that's a big thing that I would say, especially in an office environment. Just general tips if you're in an office environment, try and take calls on the move because most people here, if they're in an office, they might do like 4,000 steps a day.
Yeah, I was going to buy one of those desk ones. They're like, you get them on Amazon for like 1,000 dirhams, and you can just sit it under your desk and just kind of like slowly walk.
Yeah.
It doesn't go much faster than like 6 kilometers, but like, has anyone got them? Have you used them?
I've had clients who've had walking pads in their apartments and stuff like that. And one of my clients even has a treadmill in their apartment. And that's great if you're going to use it. And some people genuinely need to do that because, especially in the summer. But if you can schedule a walk in with something else and kind of habit stack, like if
Walking
you,
meetings and
yeah, or going back to what we said about sunlight in the morning, can you do a 10-minute walk in the morning? Can
yeah,
you do a 20-minute walk in the morning? You've just ticked off sunlight exposure for your sleep and you've got some activity in,
yeah,
meaning the rest of the day is going to be a lot easier. You don't get to 7 p.m. when you don't want to do all that activity
yeah.
and have to do that.
I know Steve Jobs was quite famous for having walk-in meetings. I think
Yeah.
that's one of the reasons they built the big Apple campus with all the park inside because they want people to get out and walk and be in nature and stuff.
Yeah. But that's a great strategy, especially in an office environment. It's small stuff like that which makes a big difference on average.
Mm. Okay. So how do people find you?
Find me. um, Annoying probably. On their
No, I
case all
mean,
the time.
I mean on like social media. How do they
Oh, how do
contact
they
you if they want to
find
use your
you?
services?
We can edit that bit out. So the best way to contact me would probably be through Instagram. If you don't have my phone number, it's Tom J Waite, Waite.
Yeah,
If you have any questions about what we've talked about today, just drop me a message on there. That's the easiest way to find me.
yeah, and they can go and do like group classes or book him individually, and
Yeah, so the services I offer at the moment is the personal training is pretty stacked out.
yeah,
The online coaching side of things is essentially where we would first of all we do a consultation. So I want to know a little bit about you, what you want to achieve, and also why you want to achieve it, because that's a really, really big thing. I think one big thing I would say today on this podcast is if you have a weight loss goal or you have a nutrition goal, whatever it is, if you can be really clear on why you want to do it, and I don't mean I want to lose 5 kilos.
mm,
Why do you want to lose 5 kilos? And what a lot of people say is, oh, I just want to feel better. And it's like, well, why do you want to feel better? And they're like, oh, well, I can't run after my kids without getting out of breath. I can't play with my kids, or I can't walk up the stairs without getting out of breath. Situation specific stuff. Think about why you want to do something. And if
yeah,
I'm working with someone, I need to be really, really clear on that because that's realistically what's going to take you through the progress when it gets hard.
hmm,
So I want to know what you want to achieve, why you want to achieve it,
yeah.
and then from
Need
there we would
real
create,
solid purpose. Yeah,
yeah, we would create a program based upon your lifestyle. What kind of nutrition do you follow? Do you eat out every day? Do you prep food yourself? Do you need a meal prep service?
Oh, that's something we haven't spoke about in terms of meal prep.
Yep.
Are they any those services? You know, what do you really think about them? Are there any you recommend?
So meal prep services are a really difficult business to get right because you are,
I've had some terrible ones,
yeah,
especially with like it comes to fish.
yeah,
I find anything that's prepped by another company and it's salmon or fish is just awful.
yeah. You you're catering for a mass service when realistically what an individual needs to be customized. So when you're looking at batch cooking and stuff like that, that's where the kind of quality control drops. There's a really good company that I use in Dubai, and I've used them for myself. I don't necessarily use it for my clients, but some clients have used it in the past. But I use it for myself every week because it saves me time, it saves me stress, and that is Jetlag Chef. Really good quality food, and I've used them for probably 6 months continuously now.
No affiliation.
No affiliation at all. Um, so yeah, that is probably one of the best services that I've used.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. Well, look, thank you very much for coming on the podcast. Hopefully, you get a few more clients reaching out to you. I'd love to hear if a company gets involved and tries to get all their sales staff on the plans and stuff. But thank you very much, Tom.
No problem at all. Thank you for having me.
Have a good day.